Let's say you want to add a little more weight to an object using the wood attribute, or less bounce to an object using rubber. The Physical Attributes property panel is great for modifying existing attributes, but it goes much further than that. Let's take a look at it. Let's add a sphere to the scene. And we'll raise it up in the air a little bit. And we'll give it an attribute of rubber. And we'll start the simulation. The green arrows protruding from the sphere represent its current direction of travel and rotation. The length of the arrows represents the speed of these values. Long arrows mean fast movement, while short arrows mean little movement. And we'll stop it there. Now if we wanted to give this object a little bit less bounce, we'll need to right-click on an attribute icon and open up the Physical Attributes property panel. We'll lower the elasticity down to about 60. And we'll start the simulation again. See how it bounces less? Here's a breakdown of what these settings mean. Mass is basically how much an object weighs. Mass levels change with the different attributes. trueSpace will automatically calculate an object's weight according to its size, too. Elasticity is how much an object will bounce off another object or the ground. Something fun about elasticity is what happens when it's set higher than 100. Any setting above 100 will cause the object to retain all of its kinetic energy and in fact cause the object to bounce beyond its original height. Resistance is how much of the object's surface is affected when traveling through an atmosphere. A good way to think of this is comparing a moving sphere to a cube. Because a sphere is rounded, it will encounter less resistance to the air. A cube has flat, hard edges that can slow it down. A setting of 0 means the atmosphere will not affect the object at all, while higher settings will make the air slow the object more. So higher settings are more like the cube, and lower settings are more like the sphere. Friction is how much an object's surface is affected by other surfaces while moving. A good way to think of this is comparing an oil-coated object to a sticky object. The lower the setting, the easier it will move. A setting of 0 means the object will move quite easily across the surface and will not be slowed down by other surfaces. Coarseness is very similar to friction, the difference being that this is for the object's surface and works best when the object is stationary. Think of this as the difference between the surface of glass and granite rock. A rough surface means objects striking it will cause them to temporarily stick to it, while a smooth surface lets objects slide away. Again, the lower the setting is, the smoother the object. Charge is for making objects attract or repel each other. Think of this setting like molecules. Opposites attract, while same signs repel. The settings are for how much charged force the object will have. Positive numbers represent a positive charge, while negative numbers mean a negative charge. Charge works in conjunction with the conductor-insulator option. Adhesion is for giving objects a sticky surface. Objects can start off stuck together or from a collision during a simulation. In the settings, the higher the value is, the more adhesive power the object will have. This in turn affects the ability to separate objects if they are struck by a third object. The higher the value, the harder the force needs to be to separate the objects. And that brings us to the end of this section where we've just covered what each of the property values do. The next chapter covers the function of these buttons at the top of this panel.